One of the most common things people complain about in video games is the AI. One aspect claims that the AI is cheating, for example, being able to ignore fault zone of control, which it can't. Simultaneously, the AI is often called pretty brainless, leaving the siege of Paris that is 3 seconds away from being won to go reinforce the battle in northern India, for example, or other genius AI innovations, like completely ignoring the combat with mechanic and throwing as many troops as it possibly can, as quickly as it can, into the battle. Is this the product of incompetent devs that don't know how to code an AI, or is this some grand conspiracy to make the AI bad to make the players feel good about beating it? In fact, what even is AI? Is a decision tree with weights an AI? Is a massive block of if statements an AI? Can ChatGPT help you beat Byzantium as the Ottomans? Well, before we go into all that and more, a like on the video appreciated if you haven't already, and a subscription would be amazing. I hold a rather ambitious goal of achieving 30,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and any help towards that would be appreciated. With that said, one final pit stop as it were, as this video is brought to you by none other than Factor. I know going outside is not a trait frequently associated with Paradox players. However, even individuals residing entirely within the confines of a rock are aware of the crippling increases in prices, especially for takeout food. It's getting bad out there. Factor provides you with cheap alternatives, giving you restaurant quality meals delivered right to your door, and with just 2 minutes of preparation through the application of heat, they are ready for you to consume. And we aren't just automating away your dinners. No, Factor now also provides you with options like breakfast and other snack things, including but not limited to smoothies and small bites of neat stuff, helping you finish that Ryuka World Conquest right on schedule. To top that all off, Factor is quite flexible, and much like my upload schedule, which does what it wants, well, you too can change up your orders every week, with plans from 4 to 18 meals a week, as well as options to pause or reschedule your deliveries at any time. Get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box using my link. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Grab it now, but with all that said, let's get back into the video. Well, now that everyone has their food needs sorted, AI. Let's get the classification problem out of the way first. Within a reasonable level of normalcy, if it is a system that makes some kind of decision within your video game, I'm going to call it an AI. Here I'm happy to adopt this vibes-based definition, because if enough people refer to an activity as an AI decision, I think it's reasonable to call it an AI. The game deciding to pay or not pay for a fort in EU4 is an AI. It may be entirely determined based on the current nation's budget and factors such as level of debt, meaning it's less of an AI and more of a when no money, no fort paying, when you strip away all the edge cases, but that is an AI decision nonetheless, for the purpose of actually playing and having fun inside the game. Another example is the decision whether the UK will garrison Madagascar or garrison Nottingham. From the player, and frankly vast majority of players' perspective, that is also an AI decision, where in practice it's just an AI weight system where the number for Madagascar garrison happens to be higher than the number for UK garrisons. Indeed, the AI deciding that a one-population planet in Stellaris needs a third entertainment building is yet again an AI doing so, but an AI operating entirely within the domain of AI weights and the typo the developer put in 3 months ago, making the AI see entertainment complexes as the greatest invention since the wheel. For the most part, within the domain of strategy games, this is usually what you mean when you mention AI actors, and hence that's what we're going to be looking at today. It is also important to mention that AIs in different game genres, like the AI controlling a bot in a shooter or the AI controlling a tank in World of Tanks, is going to be different systematically than the AI deciding if the nation of Mongolia really needs to research the next battleship technology. In fact, by some more purist applications of the term, practically all video game AIs aren't real AIs, and even things like the ever so uncontroversial and universally beloved ChatGPT also arguably aren't really an AI either, as it can be better classified as a glorified machine learning algorithm that simply predicts the most likely word that will come next if this was a normal conversation. But this pedantic argument isn't really useful when you watch the British AI drop some 3k IQ innovations by taking out another loan to build a naval battery next to the 3 other naval batteries in northern Scotland. And you wonder, where did this go wrong? Now, the first thing I want to address before going into a deep dive into all the video games is the developers can't make a better AI claims. They can. Developers like Paradox Interactive, who I'm sure you're familiar with at this point, or companies like Firaxis who operate under the 2K umbrella, or even Creative Assembly absolutely have the capacity to dedicate a sufficient chunk of funding to make a bot that will universally dominate 99% of players, if not more. The issue also very much isn't technical. An opinion I've observed frequently during discussions is that Paradox games or grand strategy games or even conventional strategy games are too technical or complex for AIs to be good at. I believe, however, the statement in good faith can be interpreted as the games are too technical or complex for AIs to be too good at within the allocated budget. But I would be lying if I said some people genuinely believe that humanity is incapable of making an AI that's good at a map game. No, AIs were claimed to be never good enough to beat humans at chess. However, at the time of making that statement, this was a science-defining frontier, and famously broken by Deep Blue getting good and beating Kasparov. The thing is, we have had even more developments since 1997, and it hasn't been restricted to games like chess, which can be easily modeled for an AI interface. Far from it. Seer is an AI bot for Rocket League for all things, a game not exactly optimized for a nice interface for the AI to have. Regardless, it is now sitting comfortably in the top 100 in the world, although it did take 1.5 million hours of training to get there. Now, is Rocket League not a grand strategy game, and hence a bad comparison? Yes, but it's actually a good comparison, because a model that is inherently mass-based is going to perform worse and struggle more in an environment like professional Rocket League than in a game like EU4, where the value of buildings can be calculated on a spreadsheet in an afternoon. While systems like the AI interface as well as the actual running of the training games may be harder, a grand strategy environment is arguably better for a machine learning AI than something like Rocket League. As such, I would argue that given enough effort and desire, it's doable. The limitation isn't current technology, it's the desire to do so. And here I would like to enter another segue. See, conceptually, setting up a machine learning algorithm for a game like EU4 isn't difficult from a what to do perspective. You just need to, find a way to have a machine learning model interact with the EU4 game itself, hopefully on a non-visual intensive level, as well as finding a way to run like 100 instances of EU4 simultaneously for training. And 100 is probably the floor of that statement. Ideally would want more. Furthermore, since running an MP environment would be kind of necessary if you want to train the bots against each other, and that comes with a whole new host, pardon the pun of problems, it'd be best to restrict it to be a single player bot. From here we can either make it the greatest single player Austria player of all time and practically end Playmaker's career, or train it to be more general by giving it random countries. Although I have to say, subjecting any AI bot, even if it is a machine learning algorithm, to play New Zealand natives for hundreds of thousands of hours would make me enemy number one if the AIs ever do rise up. Regardless, the actual to-do things, in terms of what we need to do to achieve this goal, I'm able to summarize quite quickly in a YouTube video. The doing part is naturally the part that's hard. With that said, if you happen to be an individual possessing a desire to engage in such a project, I would love to hear from you. My Discord links are in the description, and I also happen to have an email address you can reach out to too, which you can find in the description. To be clear, I'm not exactly hiring anyone. I can't even afford a minimum wage salary for myself at the moment. This is more so a statement that if someone is undertaking such a project or has a desire to do so, I cannot communicate here how much I would absolutely love to be involved. Anyway, this is yet again a massive off-topic tangent. Let's get back on topic though with a quick summary. In general, video game AIs face pretty constant criticism over their innovative decision-making, and yet the ability to create a super AI that will dominate the vast majority of players is possible. Surely it would, if anything, be easier to make a slightly stupider version? If an AI takes a million hours of training to get top 100 good, just give it 100,000 hours and call it a day. So let's take a look at some games now. Firstly, let's start with a game that avoids a lot of AI criticism, and frankly a lot of criticism overall. I'm of course referring to Crusader Kings 2, and certainly when it comes to the domain of AI, Crusader Kings 3 does well too. This is to say that people critique other parts of CK3, but the AI either manages to fly under the radar, or as I would argue, genuinely not be an issue. That's not to say the game series is immune to criticism regarding its AI, far from. The main way I both observed online and experienced personally was the AI stickiness to forts. I alluded to this earlier, but one of the problems that can be encountered when it comes to AI decision making is how much the AI chooses to stick with sieging forts versus leaving a fort to fight a battle and abandoning a siege. In the case of the extreme for being super sticky, the AI will stay sieging a random fort on -49% with a 20k stack, while your 10k stack gets killed by a different AI's 20k stack. Obviously, if the AI just walked off the siege and reinforced your battle, you would have won, and hence you are now annoyed at the brain-dead AI. In the other extreme, the AI could have 20k on a siege again, but this time it's on a 49%, or like 30 days away from being won. Then you take a fight against a different AI's 10k stack with your 20k, a battle you are easily winning. However, your AI ally still abandons the siege to go help you fight, to help you win harder. And in some extra insulting cases, you win the battle before the AI even arrived, meaning the AI walked off the siege for literally no reason. Notice, however, that I'm using EU4 sieges in this CK example, and that's because sieges in Crusader Kings are significantly less frustrating in my experience than EU4 ones, so that mitigates the issue somewhat. Leaving sieges is just less of a frustrating problem. Now I introduced this concept here, but I will return to it in the EU4 section, where I think this concept is best explored. However, the stickiness to sieges is actually where the complaints about the CK2 and CK3 AI, in my opinion, conclude. The CK2 AI did take a little bit of tweaking, but in my experience, I would say it's pretty good. And while the CK3 release AI was very passionate about basically never leaving sieges, in my experience in CK3, again, the AI is actually pretty good at being not too sticky. If I was forced to nitpick, I would say the CK2 AI could leave sieges a little bit more than it currently does, and the CK3 AI could stay on sieges a little bit more than it currently does too. But if I could tweak the actual numbers below the hood, I cannot in good faith recommend changes that exceed a 10% swing either way, and even then I would need to test if the system felt better. But AI doesn't exist in CK2 or CK3 just to help the player win wars and pick when to walk and leave sieges. It also manages literally every other character in the game, as well as runs every other country in the game. How does the AI perform with this task? Honestly, in CK2 the AI did a genuinely amazing job from a fun perspective. AIs would build major empires, but also collapse somewhat regularly, meaning that in this fairly dynamic system, big boy threats would show up to the player in relatively varied states. In some games, the AI Byzantium Mega Blob would field armies of thousands of heavy cataphracts, aka elite heavy cavalry that would require significant numbers of insane player quality troops to beat. In other games, the 17th Byzantium Civil War to increase council power would end inconclusively when the 3rd Byzantine Revolt to increase council rights within the Byzantine Revolt would get annexed by the Peasant Uprising. To be clear, what I just said, that is the Byzantine Civil War, the 17th one, was going on for so long that the revolters got into not just one, not two, but 3 revolts inside of the revolt to increase council rights within the revolt. And the 3rd revolt inside the revolt only ended because the guy that was rising up got annexed by the peasants who revolted against the revolt that was revolting against the revolt. And if you're wondering why I spent so long explaining a fake scenario, that's because it's not a fake scenario that actually happened in one of my games. Basically, the AI is incredibly dynamic, and it achieves this by interacting masterfully with the CK2 role-playing systems. The traits associated with people actually matter. An ambitious, talented daughter will behave accordingly, making place for the throne. An arbitrary, content person would not care if his league broke feudal law, and would sit out on the upcoming civil war, since joining a revolution sounds like work. Was it a perfect system? No, but it worked well enough. Incompetent rulers could destroy massive empires built by competent ones. Furthermore, with CK2, lack of restrictive building slots, AI decisions on building up the land didn't really matter. No building was ever bad, and building a level 3 market didn't restrict it from building anything useful. So unlike other games we will cover later, you never saw players complaining about the AI in CK2 or 3 for that matter, making bad building choices. Any building is good basically, and if you want to play tall and build everything, you can. The AI building that marketplace didn't hurt you since you would have built it eventually anyway. Now, even with a transition in CK3, the trait system survived, and here I have to say that I actually commend CK3. Yes, the amount of traits you can have was effectively, for all purposes, capped at 3, but those traits were significantly more impactful than their CK2 counterparts, and naturally some traits were just awful while others were amazing. It did mean that a trait like Shy was effectively crippling, as it would mean you'd gain stress every time you talk to anyone ever. So yeah, a bad trait to possess if you're ever in charge of, oh, I don't know, a medieval court. Regardless, even with these reduced personality traits, their unique combinations, as well as some traits being bad while others being good, meant that the variation in empire size and scale was preserved from CK2. And for the main purpose of the game, creating a fun environment for the average player, the CK3 AI does well. Its calculations aren't too intense for the average computer, it blobs and can pose a decent challenge for a player going for things like a world conquest, or even the restoration of the Roman Empire, without being too good that a player who wants to just sit in somewhere like Germany, attend weddings and fight in tournaments can also just do that. You don't need to scale a country up to compete with this AI, although scaling and nation building naturally still help. Overall, CK2 and CK3 did their video game army really well from a player enjoyment perspective. And with that said, let's move on to EU4. Oh boy, let's get started with a bit of a personal anecdote as it were. A long time ago I was playing a nice chill co-op game of EU4 with a friend. I was playing Geneva that had formed Switzerland, but I kept it Genevan ideas. And I had a friend playing some Italian chap. The name eludes me. Well, my friend went to war against Genoa and called me in. A call to arms I honoured and came to help in his war. During the siege of Genoa itself, I saw some AI troops start to siege my mountain forts, and seeing an excellent opportunity to take a -2 fight against the AI, I went to leave the siege of Genoa for it. But as I did, completely on autopilot, I left a 1k stack on Genoa. However, I was quickly confronted by my friend saying, verbatim, Lemon, did you leave a 1k stack on my army? Did you think I was AI? I'm not going to walk off the siege. Which is an excellent observation. But this wasn't a closeted insult to my friend. There was an active muscle memory, one bought with the countless observations of the EU4 AI leaving almost completed sieges to go help me in a battle they really did not need to help me in. This has been addressed, the stickiness to sieges is significantly better in my opinion, and most importantly, I found that the decision to reinforce battle AI is significantly more predictable. An aspect to bear in mind is that the AI is very averse to taking battles it thinks it can't win, which may be annoying behavior sometimes, but at least it's a predictable behavior because that can be exploited through selective force concentration, or overstacking battles and sieges to intimidate the AI. In a player versus player environment, if I see someone attack me and siege me with a 50k stack, I won't think, oh, it's only 50k with 50k standing next to it. I know his country has 400k men, but I can beat that 100k because he only has 100k here. No, I'm going to assume that he has more troops further back ready to reinforce. Meanwhile, against the AI, it's better to overstack and intimidate the AI when needed, and when picking battles, again, hoping that the AI sees your local troops in the area and decides against piling on. Frankly, the AI can best be described as a fake friend. It's there for you when you don't need them, and it's almost certainly absent when you do need them. Is that a bad behavior? Oh, absolutely. This is video criticizing AI after all. But one of the saving graces of this behavior is at least it's consistent. Now, the AI currently, I think, can be made more ambitious when it comes to initiating fights, but that too can also be exploited by people like me. For example, back in the day when it was more passionate about taking fights, a fun trick you could do to force the AI to take a fight it couldn't win was to put a stack without a general next to their armies. Their armies would go, oh, I can beat that, they have no general. And then when they lock in, boom, you teleport in a good general, and now the AI is taking a bad fight that it was only choosing to take because it assumed that you had no general assigned. This is just one example, but indeed the AI was and remains quite exploitable in this nature when it comes to fighting. However, fighting isn't the only thing that the AI does, it also needs to run a country. In this case, this involves managing internal rebellions, dealing with disasters if and when they pop up, building and maintaining their army, and more crucially, both developing their provinces and building buildings. I can't cover everything here, but the AI has a weird history of these tasks. For one, a very common problem would be that the AI would never develop their coal provinces, so the AI got given a little extra weight for a couple patches to develop the provinces with latent coal. And by little extra weight, I mean that whatever the number was, it was frankly way too massive. The AI would dev the coal mines like their lives depended on it, meaning that you'd see random mountains that had the potential of coal in France get dev to 40 by the 1500s, while Paris itself was lower development, and the AI would be behind on technology, as it would prefer to dev the potential coal mines than it would be to maintain, technological parity. The AI also frequently struggled with buildings, outright ignoring manufactories for manu patches, and also being very spotty when it came to upgrading forts, either upgrading them very passionately and quickly, or completely ignoring the process entirely. It would also practically never build new forts, meaning that over time, playing the game, you would just learn the locations of where forts would live. And here it would have conceded improvements have been made. The AI, especially from the later patches, is significantly better at deving overall, especially later into the game. It actually builds significantly more buildings, even if it remains a touch allergic to force them at camps and barracks, while still being overly passionate about marketplaces in the middle of nowhere. Another important metric is its blobbiness. The AI genuinely, even on normal difficulty, consolidates a lot better than it used to, meaning that even by the 1650s, and Ottomans that have been left alone, for example, are able to pose a challenge to the player. The blobbing isn't anything too insane. We are still far away from an AI being able to do a world conquest within the confines of 1444 to 1821, but it is significantly better, and I've seen even normal difficulty AI, so without AI buffs, able to pull off 1 million troops by the literal end of the game. This hasn't been unnoticed. A complaint has arisen that the AI is consolidating a lot more than it did historically, and it is a claim about why late game sucks. After all, it is a shame that by the 1600s, practically all small countries are gone. That's a fair complaint thematically, and I have to admit the rise in difficulty is at least somewhat nice, given the insane power creep of updates that we have seen, but it is a shame to see this rise in difficulty occur at the expense of smaller countries existing. Regardless, we also have to contend that this is only a neat property if you're tryharding EU4 as it were. You are going for a world conquest, or things like a one faith run. If you're trying to roleplay and play at all Netherlands or something, the increased competence of the AI can be seen as a detriment, although I will say that in my opinion, it's still not oppressive enough to disable this kind of gameplay. Yes, you can't outscale France as the Dutch by pressing the dev button 3 times, but it's still certainly possible, and stronger nations like France, Spain, and emerging powers from Germany breathing down your neck, I would argue, is an element of roleplay as the Dutch. I would further argue that the nation-building aspects of the EU4 AI at the moment get a solid 8 out of 10 from me. It can certainly dev better, not build marketplaces so passionately in random provinces. It can perhaps actually start using the expand infrastructure button, and a plethora of other such optimizations, but it scales well enough, and the player, if they're trying to achieve certain goals, isn't given a completely free game to do so. Here though, I think the actual difficulty settings for EU4 could be readjusted. The EU4 AI, especially in its current state, does not need the buffs it obtains on very hard to pose a challenge to players. Instead, I think having an AI aggressiveness scaler, so how much the AI blobs and consolidate, would be a very helpful addition here. More casual players could set it to low, or even keep it at a medium for a more normal experience, while you can set it to high for a more challenging run without inherently giving the AI big bonuses. Another nice thing when it comes to something like an AI aggressiveness scale is that there's less ego on the line. People want to be perceived as good at video games, for better or for worse, and while there are some absolute giga chads who have no issue whatsoever in saying, I have more fun playing EU4 on very easy, and just go and play EU4 on very easy and have fun playing video games in current year, preposterous. Yeah, I think having it presented as an AI aggressiveness scaler lets you add more nuance to difficulty selection, without insulting anyone in the process by implying they can't handle regular difficulty AI. Finally, since we're on the topic of optics, let's get a couple things out the way, because EU4 and optics for AI cheats are awful. One of the most common complaints is the AI rolls higher dice rolls in battles. It doesn't. You're welcome to test this yourself, and if you're still somehow convinced, you can play the game with flat rolls. That's a setting, where the AI can't cheat because you're all rolling the same. We don't, however, as dynamic rolls are cool and introduce much needed variance into the game. It's not a fault of EU4 that people are bad at understanding probability, but it is a fault of EU4 communication. Also, while dice rolls are truly random, they could be made artificially more consistent to make the players perceive them as such. An example of how this could be achieved at home is with a deck of cards. A standard deck of cards contains 52 cards, so remove a suit of your choice as well as all aces, which would leave you with 36 cards. You can then assign each card to one of the possible 36 dice roll combinations of rolling 2 6-sided dice. Bear in mind, I said 36 combinations, not 12, since we want to effectively double count things like 7s being able to be created by rolling 1 6, 2 5, 3 4, 4 3, 5 2, and 6 1. When shuffled, instead of rolling a dice, just pick a card. Now the distribution of probability remains the exact same as the dice, but your variance is insanely reduced, and you can plan better knowing that in this card rotation, the 12 has already been rolled, for example. Now, in-game, you don't need to mess around with a pack of cards. Just distribute a set of dice rolls with the same distribution as normal, and just pull from that until you loop. Is this randomness? No, in fact, I would argue it makes it worse, but it would eliminate the concern. Another thing terribly communicated is the AI's pathfinding around forts. It doesn't cheat, it follows the exact same fort logic as the player, but the player is often quick to assume it can't walk around certain forts when the AI literally checks every single possible path and sees, oh, this is how I can walk around a certain fort. If the player also stood around with their army and kept trying random paths for a couple real-time hours every single in-game EU4 day, it could also do the exact same things the AI is doing. If you don't believe me, next time you see an AI innovate past one of your forts, tag into the AI and then you can see that you can issue the exact same movement order. With that said, the issue here isn't the AI, it is again an issue of communication. Trade, for example, is memed super hard as a very difficult concept in EU4, but trade is really not that hard at all. Provinces make trade value, it flows around, you collect it, you're rich. That's it, really. Meanwhile, fort mechanics are deceptively simple, but contain exceptions on top of exceptions on top of exceptions. Again, the AI cheats with fort is a failure of communication. Finally, and this is one of the big ones, the gotcha moment for the AI cheats crowd. The AI does not take naval attrition from deep seas, which is fair because the AI is not taking naval attrition deep seas. However, the AI is also coded to not realize it doesn't take attrition in deep seas, so it fears them nonetheless. And outside of this being a gotcha moment, I'm not going to lie, if you lose a campaign because the AI ships were meant to take an extra tick of attrition while at sea, you would have lost this campaign anyway. I don't see a single war being turned around because the AI ships took an extra 5% damage at sea. Another common complaint is that the AI ignores fog of war. It doesn't. AI does have fog of war, but it also has performance issues, since when issuing orders, it takes into account the enemy troops it can see. And EU4 has a genuine lag problem where the AI would see a stack, make a new plan, move, but then the stack would move out of vision, and the AI would assume that the stack no longer exists, meaning it would need to make a new plan. But of course, the issue here is that making these plans is computationally expensive, especially since, again, it's just remade the plan, and then the next day, the troops it just forgot existed reappeared. To address this issue, the AI was given a memory of units, so that even when they re-entered the fog of war, the AI could still see them for a couple extra months. It did mean that the AI gained the ability to respond to things it shouldn't be able to see, but given the other option was to massively nuke performance, I don't think it's the biggest deal in my opinion personally. Could it be implemented better? Sure, but realistically, outside of the gotcha, the EU4 cheats moments, the current system works absolutely fine for the vast majority of cases. Yet again though, the issue is purely optics. When you start moving a stack in the center of your country that was on the border, and hence seen earlier, to go relieve a siege, the AI reacts to this information. That is bad, because enough people see this happening and assume the AI is cheating, because in this case it absolutely is. So while there's a good solution from a game balancing point of view and a game optimization point of view, it's a terrible solution from a game optics point of view. But enough about Eu4 AI. What about the AI that is among the most hated, judged entirely by volume of complaints that I've encountered? Stellaris. For a game set in space with options for sentient AI to take over, there are many cases I would wish ChatGPT would take over from the AIs. After all, hallucinating that has access to ships that don't exist, as well as inventing new level 6 cannons, couldn't be much worse than some of the innovative decision making the AI partakes in. See, I firmly don't believe that the AI is designed to be specifically incompetent. But frankly, seeing what the AI in Stellaris does genuinely makes me second guess myself. The AI researches technology pretty much at random. It expands not based on any ideology or direction, just whatever it can click. The AI seems to operate on a policy, if this button is a button I can press, I will press it 50% of the time, without much rhyme or reason. Now, Stellaris as a game goes through a complete rework every 6 months. It's kind of scheduled at this point, frankly, meaning I can understand why the AI lags behind with the reworked systems, but let's see how this is done in a manner that is extremely frustrating to the player. Firstly, for those unaware of Stellaris, it's a very common thing within the domain of the game to optimize your planets to do a particular task. For example, having a planet dedicated to growing food or producing alloys or mining minerals. You can spread those jobs out, but bonuses like planetary governor buffs, special building buffs, outputs, and unique buildings entirely mean that concentrating tasks into specific planets is the better way of playing the game. As such, an issue such as consumer goods shortages is best met with a new planet being colonized and dedicated to the production of consumer goods, as an example. The AI, however, does not believe in ideologies such as optimization, and in general, when it comes to possession of a planet, it builds things practically at random. Not only does this make it significantly weaker than a player when given the same space to work with, it also means that when the player takes over the AI's planet, or God forbid uses AI automation on a sector, they basically need to scorch earth the thing before making it into something useful. The innovative decisions of the AI truly know no bounds at all. I'm not exaggerating here. From my experience, it does feel like the AI in Stellaris just rolls the dice and picks the buildings to build sometimes. Had this existed in an environment like Crusader Kings in a mainly roleplay game, it would be more passable, but the other AI decisions are front and center whenever you play the game. The AI is voting for Tayanki pest control when the Unbidden shows up outside of their borders. The AI will land on a planet and immediately put down an entertainment complex. The AI will see a crippling consumer goods shortage and decide to fix it by building a research lab, which, for those unaware, employs scientists which put a bigger drain on your consumer goods. Now, compared to other games talked about here, the AI in Stellaris actually happened to be the subject of a 2017 GDC talk, a link to which can be found in the description down below. There, they explored how the AI made for this game is basically a data-driven roulette wheel selecting algorithm, where different weights correspond to different actions. To quote the video, it is a very robust system. You can basically redesign the whole game without having to redesign the AI, which is very ironic to hear in 2024, 7 years after this video, and I say this as a massive conceptual fan of Stellaris. They have genuinely redesigned this game at least 4 times over at this point, but the AI remains a very front and center issue. In fact, one of the top comments when I checked on the video was, yes indeed, this incredibly legendary, clever Stellaris AI. Now, a decent chunk of this can be put down, in my opinion, to badly optimized weights. After all, Crusader Kings as a series in EU4 does pretty much basically the exact same AI design system, but it's also a case of terrible optics. When the AI in Stellaris does, to put it politely, a major fuck up, in a game like Stellaris, you can see that. You can see it when you look at the planet building choices, its ship designs, its nation building, its map presence, and even its diplomacy towards other AIs and the player. When the CK2 or CK3 AI does some innovative diplomacy, well, usually it's because the character doing so is stupid. And I don't mean metaphorically, I mean literally possesses the stupid trait. And ambitious, smart characters, from my experience, do well. But the Stellaris AI innovations are ever present. They're inescapable, and more importantly, they're miserable for the game experience, whether you're trying to try hard the game or are doing some actual roleplay. Which naturally brings us quite well to the conclusion of this whole ordeal. Firstly, let's be clear, there's no silver bullets here. What works well in an environment such as CK2 or 3 will struggle in an environment like Stellaris. It doesn't mean it's inherently cursed, as systems like the Eu4 AI can be significantly improved and made into quite good products. It's a tough balancing act, but one that is certainly doable. Overall though, the perfect AI isn't one that stands out as a genius, or is frankly amazing at the game. When people play chess, they don't go seek out games against the highest level stockfish bot. They tend to play people at a similar skill level to them. The AI needs to be defeatable with reasonable skill, luck, or strategy, or some combination of the three to make the games engaging. It also can certainly be bad, but not in a way that is directly evident to the player. After all, the goal isn't to make Deep Blue but for EU4, it's to make a fun game. Now that is all I have time for today, but this topic itself has a lot I haven't touched upon. If you desire to engage with further reading, as it were, I cannot recommend more the video Playing to Lose, AI and Civilization by Soren Johnson. This was a Google Tech Talk from 14 years ago, but explores in more detail the concept of the AI not actually being designed to be the best, but instead being designed, in this case, to lose to the player in an entertaining way. Regardless, this will be where I leave you. Thank you very much for watching, with a special thank you to my channel members, especially Ark, Solar, Sleman, W. Haste, Sebastian Haller, Churndog 2.0, Nick Huss, Dark Fortuna, Big Soud, Lev Josh, Gay Fug, Clark Norse, Golden Arrows, and Nan Hatan.